The last fucking thing that's blocking us from freedom. Stop hindering us, man. We want our freedoms. Once we give them up, that's it. We'll never get them back.
Welcome to AC Actual Conservitude. This is Thursday, March 17th, 2022. I'm going to get you right into the news today and bring you up to speed on what's going on in Ukraine and a couple other things. I'm not going to get into many of the flashy graphics, just little updates. Alright. You got, let's say for starters, George. For some reason, Biden thought that it was appropriate, after his handlers corrected him, to call Putin a war criminal. Now, he, according to the same definition that he's applying to Putin, he's a war criminal. If you recall, he evaporated 10 family members during Afghanistan, called it a righteous strike. Milley did. And here, as it turns out, you know, they were trying to get water together to bring to the airport for all the Afghanis that were flooding, you know, to be unvetted on our airplanes that are now here. Not many are going to get into all that. All right, Lindsey Graham. This dude's a clown. He's actually going on TV, appearing to be intoxicated, calling for the assassination of a foreign leader, Putin. Come on. What's this dude's problem? What would Lady J say if everybody else around the world or in Russia started calling for his assassination? What happens if, you know, Black Lives Matter, or let's say another Bernie Sanders supporter, came out with a rifle? You know, he's more likely to get capped here than Putin is in Russia. And there's a lot going on here, and it's absolutely disgusting, because what we got is, we're already in double-digit inflation. Whether, you know, the mainstream media says it's 7.9, you know, creeping up towards 8%. No, it's not. We're at 20% and climbing, based on the old standards that they used to go into the 70s. Now, I understand, you know, the reasons that they made some of the adjustments, but honestly, it's to hide what's really going on. Is because they were so embarrassed by the numbers, Carter was, that they knew that there had to be some kind of an adjustment so that they didn't look as bad as they did. Alright. So, again, you got Biden calling Putin a war criminal, Lindsey Graham jumping on the bandwagon, not only calls him war criminal, wants him dead. These guys are acting like little girls, like little 14-year-old girls, with the, you know, letting their emotions rule them. This is what the problem is with the West. You know, really, masculinity. You know, when men fought, they fought, and then you know, shake hands afterwards. Hey, we're good, and it's over. You know, with women, they're vicious, and they go after you personally. It's all personal attacks, and it's things that you can't get over. There's no statesmanship. There's no shake on it afterwards. It's, you know, shank you in the back, And it's a vicious, just vicious kind of warfare that is unacceptable. And you can't run a country like a 14-year-old schoolgirl. All right? It doesn't work. You barely survive high school that way. And you look back, even, most women will look back on their teenage years and say, "Jesus, man, that was embarrassing." And here we are, our supposed betters, doing the same thing. So, Lindsey Graham, shut your freaking trap. Shut your trap. Start acting like a man instead of being this bitch that you are. It's disgusting. And I'm down here on the bottom looking up, and I have no idea why you're here. You disgust me. Disgust me. Not to mention Biden and Lindsey. I haven't heard anybody calling out Xi Jinping. He's got a freaking genocide going on, but nobody's talking about that. The mainstream media. What are you guys doing about that? They are sending tons of fentanyl across our border every day, and you clowns don't do a thing about it. Nobody talks about it. And LeBron James, I'd like to get a couple minutes with you just to give you a piece of my mind. Go sell sneakers to 1 billion Chinese. Hey, you know what? That's cool and all. But what about us? I'm sorry, you're going to have to lose some money. Because at some point, if we survive all this war porn and gain control of things, you're done. You're done. Alright. Yesterday, Zelensky, on this massive movie theater, presents in front of Congress this highly polished, Hollywood finish-like, and this was not done by an amateur. This is not a rank amateur. I do a lot of video editing myself. I do special effects. This was top-of-the-line video editing. Somebody paid money for this. I wouldn't even be surprised if this was done in America, paid for by Congress. Would that surprise you? And shown to Congress. Anyway, he gets on there, and whoever wrote this speech was a child. It sounded like, if you're a Democrat listening to this, have you listened to Biden's speeches? Actually pay attention to the substance, the words. Biden can barely string a sentence together, but that aside, this is not funny. He went and invoked 9/11, Pearl Harbor, Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. Are you kidding me? I found it insulting myself. I would think a lot of Americans found it insulting. It was highly emotional. They were all crying and, oh my God, we gotta sell arms, we gotta sell arms. You know what? We're being invaded every day at the southern border. But we're not sending any military down there, but they want us to send our military over to Ukraine. Why? My opinion, and as a matter of fact, we have a whole lot of facts to back this up. It's a grift. That 13 billion or whatever billion, because zeros mean nothing to these guys. Nothing. So all those arms that we're sending over there, it's a grift. The taxpayers are going to be robbed of that money. Anything that gets over there, the Clinton Foundation's going to be stuffing their pockets with both hands. You're going to have, I'll bet Lindsey Graham flies over there at some point. I'm sure that by now they all have their intermediaries. We all know about Hunter Biden, 10% for the big guy. And by the way, the New York Times admitted today that, the laptop is actually for real. No shit. James Clapper. Hey, dude. Remember what you were saying? This is Russian disinformation. Russian disinformation. You guys are all clowns, man. Clowns. Again, if we end up getting back into the power structure somehow, we the people, America first, anybody that was speaking this nonsense all the retired generals, including active military, all of you have to have your classifications revoked. In other words, no more classified material for you. You're done. Your grift is over. You've been subverting the American people for entirely too long. We're fed up with it. You're done. And as for, Maurice Salazar on Tucker Carlson last night, you're a clown. Just because you play around with a couple words and say, well, it's not amnesty, but it is. Come on. You don't care about us. You're a joke. You're a joke. You can see I'm a little fired up today, and I'm a little irritated just because of everything that's going on. So, Zelensky wants us to drop airplanes off. Now, why in the world isn't he jumping on the deal? Alright. We got word from the Russians. This is all confirmed. That Russia claims Ukraine offered neutral status. Switzerland, Austria kind of like. And it was all cool. And yeah, they want the Donbass region, they want the 2 breakaway publics, the Crimea, and then you throw that in a little demilitarization, which they don't need to have a military. They're better off not. Defense force of some kind. You know what? I'm pretty sure Putin would have accepted that. But for some reason, after they made the deal, somebody in the West, whoever's the puppet master for Zelensky, got to him and talked to him and said, you know what? Back up off that. We're not done. Not done what? Wrecking Ukraine? Because what they're doing, Ukraine can't win. It's impossible. This is the biggest clown show on earth. This is the grift on steroids with the military-industrial complex. You know what? They see dollar signs. This is all about making money. This whole thing is about people in the West making money. There's something else to it too. Something that's far more insidious. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. So, why isn't Zelensky taking this? He's going to, this clown, and he's an actor. You know what? We have the video. I showed the video in a previous podcast. He's a paid actor. He's playing a part. He's reading a script. Whoever's writing it for him, whether it's Soros or, I don't know. Whoever it is. He's enjoying himself on the script. The dude's, I'm pretty sure he's on drugs. Constantly snorting something, Let's remember, it is the 3rd most corrupt country in Europe, among the poorest as well. Poorest. Although, somehow being the most corrupt, the poorest, they're still the highest in lobbyist money spent in the United States. They blow everybody away. Nobody's even close. Yeah, tell me there's nothing funny going on here. Without getting into the past and all that nonsense. Alright. So we already talked about Zelensky. So he wants a no-fly zone. Our political elite, and I don't have a better word for it, political idiots, we'll settle on that. Political idiots are cool with this. They want to send Americans to die. No matter, there's just war, there's just too much money in it. Not to mention the cost of being found out for all the embarrassment, the grifting that they've been doing for the last 15 years or longer in Ukraine will all be uncovered. And they would rather take the world down than allow that to happen. The embarrassment is a joke. These people are stuffing their pockets. The $13 billion is the last grift that these clowns are going to get in, so they're going to stuff their pockets as they run our system into the ground. And they're doing it. They're running it into the ground. And I'll explain how in a moment. So, they're acting like 12-year-olds. They're all running around. It's all attack, attack, attack. but don't fight. What? People are dying in Ukraine. These people don't care. They don't care about anything except themselves. No one. This is the grift of a bunch of narcissists. So, again, I touched on Salazar on there. Something that caught my ear, and I don't know, you could replay the video yourself. It's too long. I'm not going to play it. I don't have the time for all that. She ended the interview by bringing up the false flag again. And if you got the impression from her interview, it was almost as if Zelensky's running our country right now, not Congress. Zelensky. So this actor is over here, or projected here, running our country from over there, and they're still running this false flag narrative around. Keep that in mind. Alright. Now what they didn't cover yesterday was that Putin had his own speech. And in his speech, again, I run a Telegram channel called AC Actual Conservitude. And if you go onto that channel, you can see everything that I'm talking about. I didn't have the time to just... It takes like an hour to load this system up. I'm by myself, I work, I'm sharing the news, I don't have the time to that. I'm going to try and go into the Telegram channel again in a minute, and I'll show you guys all that. You can jump on there at any time and see everything I'm talking about. Alright. So Putin has his own speech yesterday. And in his speech, he says, we're clear of the West. Those aren't verbatim his words. Condensing. We are out of the theft of the leftist system. We are no longer part of the rules-based order, the West. So, the meanings of that, the shockwaves are going to be felt here soon. This is unrecoverable. The damage to the financial system of the West is incalculable. I have no idea how far-reaching it will be, but I guarantee you, and you won't find an economist that's willing to actually, operate on logic, that will tell you that the loss of the dollar as the default value, but the default currency, won't have a major impact on us. Major. So, why didn't the press cover any of his speech? It's almost as if they're hiding something from us. What could that be? Another thing to keep up. So, alright, there are 2 remaining cauldrons in Ukraine. And, alright, let me get into some details here so I don't screw this up. And we're 3 weeks into this thing. Alright, Putin ordered his armies not to go into the center of the cities. You notice everybody still has electricity. They still have water. They still have cell towers. Still have communications. He hasn't wiped this out. He could have just cleared the city, but he didn't. That tells you a lot. Just, think about the logic behind that. Alright, they still have power, water, and cell phone coverage. So he isn't destroying the infrastructure. Now, the big Ukrainian army, don't know how big it is, but their main force is cut off in the Donbass. It's critical and running low, or if not out of supplies. So they're done. Every day that goes by, the Russians are heating up that cauldron. They've cut off, as I understand it, they've cut off all the humanitarian corridors. Humanitarian corridors are closed. So, as they heat this cauldron up, we're going to start seeing the armies collapse. Alright? It's going to take time for us to get anything in the U.S., not us. The U.S. to get any supplies into Ukraine. And I assure you, Russia has satellites. Russia has, a well-established human intelligence on the ground. So anything that comes into the country is going to be identified and blown up. So very little, if anything, is going to get to the Donbass for that army. Okay. Mariupol. Apparently, the 14,000 men that were there in Mariupol, that's done. That battle is over. The last thing that we heard was that Russians are mopping up. Alright. I could be pronouncing this next one wrong. Severodonetsk, the Severodonetsk army, the army in Severodonetsk, collapsed. That's done. The Hetson, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Hetson region is 100% in Russian control. Alright. That is all the updates that I have on the ground. Okay. So, let's get back to Zelensky. Whoever is promoting to him, oh, you still might be able to get into NATO, or, there might be a no-fly zone. Who's telling Zelensky to do this? It's suicidal. It's whoever's dangling this is, I don't understand why. It's obscene and insane, and all it's going to do is just get a whole lot of people killed. Whole lot of people. I suspect because of what's been going on since Zelensky was with Canada the day before yesterday. Yesterday he, was televised at Congress, and our media is in full war porn mode. As, and we've now admitted, oh yeah, well, we were doing a bunch of stupid shit with the labs over there, the biolabs. There's just stuff that's coming out is disgusting. I already covered that in a previous issue. Alright, Poland. For some reason, this is stupid. Poland comes out and says, we want Russia removed from the G20. And you can put us in their place. What? What idiot? I love Poland. They're a bunch of badasses. But whoever this is that's making these statements didn't think this out. The West is collapsing. It's almost as if those at the top haven't figured it out yet. And it's only the level-headed, the wise people who can look a little further out than today's are the ones who notice that the West is collapsing. So, Poland suggested peacekeepers. Who? That means Americans. The UN's a joke. NATO does not have an active military. I've covered that in a previous episode. That means Americans. That means the Polish military. But we don't have to worry about that anyway, because the powers to be in the EU that really control this nixed it. And that's Germany. Germany said, peacekeeping troops, that's a red line. No. Okay. So, since Poland lacks the power it's trying to project, it wants the West to act on its behalf. On behalf of all of the EU. Right. Alright. So, what's terrifying here is that, remember this, Both World War I and II started in this region. Both of them. Here we are on the verge of what could be World War III. If for all I know, I'll act like the press. This is my last broadcast, my last podcast. This is it. We could all die tomorrow, today, in a few hours, according to Maria Salazar. False flag. Okay. If a false flag happens, and maybe YouTube will delete me because I say this, it's going to be us doing it. I'd bet my bottom dollar on it. Okay. So, it's my impression. Alright, let me get to something else real quick. Alright. Sanctions. We sanction the shit out of Russia. The only people we're hurting is the Russian population. And as a matter of fact, there's so much vitriol boiled up in Europe in particular, and from here, because everybody here is like, well, who do I hate today? What should I focus on today? That Russians noticed it, and they're offended. Well, I would be. So, the sanctions are going nowhere. Putin already declared Russia is clear of the Western rules-based system. So what happened after all these sanctions? It was, Joe Biden's great idea. Saudi Arabia is now going to have a state visit by Xi Jinping of China. The UAE has already been in contact to sell oil. Qatar went to Moscow yesterday. China and Russia are creating a petro currency. And Iran already has a deal with Russia. Apparently the Iran nuke deal, so that way Iran can nuke us and Israel, thanks to Joe Biden. Russia worked that out. We don't know what the details are because Russia did it for us, but I'm sure we'll be informed at some point. Okay, so the other thing that happened is now you got Boris Johnson of England. He's also running around. He runs over to the UAE. He runs over to Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. He's begging them, please, 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 increase oil production. And I'm sure that they gave him a whole lot of happy talk. And yeah, Boris, we're going to talk about seriously doing something for you. And sent him on his way. At the same time, you got Blinken and Sullivan flying all over the place, begging all the oil producing countries that even possibly could produce oil. Like they went to Venezuela. Even if Venezuela said yes, and I'm sure they would in return for their own gold and to be recognized as, for what's his face to be recognized as their president, then they'll say yes. The problem is they don't have the infrastructure. It would be 2 years. We could have the Keystone XL pipeline finished a year and a half before a drop of oil will come out of Venezuela. So, this is all just virtue signaling and insanity. So while Blinken and Putin at Biden's behest are running around trying to secure oil because they didn't have a plan. There was no plan B. There was no forethought. There was no anything. This was emotion reaction. This is 14-year-old girl hyper emotion. We need to sanction Russia because they're attacking our grift. I have too much money sitting over there. So, what do? Well, they try and keep us occupied. They bring in TikTok influencers. They're influencing your kids. The TikTok influencers. Get to your kids and let them know what's going on. You know, don't think that you can just, that they have a history class in school. I mean, if you still think that, I'm not sure I can help you at all. So there's no plan. The Biden plan to stop Russia from taking his grift and hanging out some dark element of our CIA and Army that's doing biohazard or bioweapons testing on the Ukrainian people and Russians. It failed. The test failed. Or not the test. His project failed. The sanctions failed. And the TikTok thing, that pissed off the CCP. Now they're really irritated. You know, Blinken's over there kissing ass. I assure you, he is going to get lit up. Lit up. And I hope we hear about it. You know, the mainstream media covers for everything. And they're not telling anybody anything. So, alright. Because of all the sanctions, Russia isn't permitted to make payments on its loans. So, they said that if they're going to make payment in rubles. We'll see if they accept it. I don't know. If they don't, then Russia defaults. And, well, I don't know what that means. I don't know where the banking system is taking this. I have a really good idea. But I don't want to say because I don't know. Okay. That aside. The Fed said that they were going to do some tightening. Which means that they had to increase interest rates. Well, they didn't. They bailed on that plan because it'll bring down the whole Ponzi scheme. They actually ended up dropping the interest a few points. Imagine that. So, apparently they can't act because the debt in the financial markets, it's too risky. The whole system could collapse too fast. So they didn't do it. Alright, moving on. We need to ask ourselves some questions. Now, I'm just going to throw this information out here, and then we'll talk about what a logical outcome could be. Mainstream media blackout on everything Russia's doing. All of it. From Putin's speech to what's going on the ground. They're lying about all of it. They're saying that Ukraine's winning, that they have a chance, that... Okay. The markets are collapsing. And what do I mean by that? You know, the financial and economic collapse of the West is pending. You can start to see it happening because fertilizers, we can't get them now. Check with any farmer. You know, we're supposed to be planting crops in 3 weeks, and we can't get fertilizer. The shortages that are coming our way are going to be incredible. All this while, the ruble is strengthening. So you have fertilizers, energy shortages, food shortages, precious metal shortages, and we can't raise interest rates. What could the ideologues who are running this clown show be doing here? What are their choices? So as our system fails, as the Western rules-based system, as they call it, fails because of their incompetence. They could either reverse course and just start pumping oil, remove the sanctions from Russia, let, you know, whatever happens there happen. Hopefully freedom break or peace breaks out. Imagine that. You think that's going to happen? That they're just going to let peace break out? No. The only other choice could be a false flag. Why a false flag? In my humble opinion, I believe it's to cover up everything else that's going on. You got, if you're vaccinated, I apologize. You need to get informed. But Pfizer's information's coming out. You got the grift that happened in Ukraine coming out. At the same time, our Western-based rules-based system is collapsing. Our economy's beginning to falter. We're entering a recession. Gas prices are going through the roof. Yeah, sure, they dropped a few cents over the last couple days, but things are going to get bad again, and they're going to get bad fast. A lot of neocons want to go to war, and the only way that they can get to war is by manufacturing some type of consent. They need to get the American people behind them, and as I understand it, by the polling this morning, that's a no-go. Americans are not fine. They don't believe this. All of the emotional idiots that threw Ukrainian flags up on their Twitter feeds, and we love Ukraine, we support Ukraine, no fly zone, and then they realized, well, that actually means war. Oh, no. As they begin to rationalize and they come off of their emotional high, they start to realize that war's bad, and hey, war's good over there, but if you're going to take my kids, well, that might not be so good. So all these idiots are finally coming around to the idea that war's bad. So too many stupid people would fall for this false flag, and then they would have their consent, and then they could start war. It's a guess. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Any ideas? Because now we got Tony Blair appears out of nowhere. One of the other things I had heard was that a bunch of guys, I shouldn't say a bunch of guys, in the British press that Tony Blair was saying, we can't let another Obama red line in the sand thing happen. Biden can't back it up, and we can't let that happen. So that tells you what they want. They want America to go to war, and our neocons and Democrats are all over it. Let's go to war. Okay, so the globalist elite project is failing. It's dropping like a rock. Russia's out, China's out. Now there is another currency, whatever one rolls out. You got India's out, Venezuela's out. They're about to lose the golden goose of Ukraine. You got the collapse of oligarchs. You got Russia's effect, or the effect of Russia attacking, is still working its way around the earth. How many other countries are going to bail on the dollar? Who benefited most from this? The CCP, of course. Yeah, they're rocking it. Germany's like a scared cat. They're not doing anything. And I'm a little shocked, because now all of a sudden they bailed on their green plan, and it's the Green Party that went in. They bailed on their green plan. They're trying to restart their nuclear plants, even though they never stopped with the oil, but they did go in on the sanctions. So they're trying to back up as fast as they possibly can. And as I put out in the last podcast, the Pentagon doesn't want any of this. They know what war is. And I'm not talking about Milley or any of the morons at the top. I'm talking about somewhere down in the middle. The Pentagon is saying no. And every time that these idiots toss this shit up there, they're slapping it down. No, 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 no. So you got, what is this? Yeah, Pentagon doesn't want to do anything. Now, they're going to want to do this false flag before the public gets too focused on the economy. Man, I pray this doesn't happen. So you got still the mainstream media and big tech are still blocking everything going on. No information that is negative on Ukraine and positive for Russia is allowed to filter out. I'll be surprised if this video actually remains. I keep looking down to see if I suddenly am dropping all my frames. And that's the reason I wanted to get this video out there, because there's too much going on, and I'll risk getting thrown off of YouTube. This is just too important, because I have a 20-year-old son, and he's not going to war in Ukraine because these assholes want to grift, because our military-industrial complex wants to have a field day, because we're like, what, $30 trillion in debt, and can't raise interest rates because we can't afford the interest rate on our debt. So the neocons want war. The CCP wants us bogged down in another conflict so that they can take Taiwan. Their plan called for the United States to be, they wanted 4 wars. But if they could get us bogged down in Russia and Europe, and then they can attack Ukraine, it would be easy. I shouldn't say it would be easy. It would be easier. Our Navy is formidable. But when you consider all the wokeness, and honestly, the vaccine shit scares the crap out of me. Because, it was made in China. It was a CCP bioweapons lab that created this, the vaccine. And then we uploaded it and made it. So, think about that, just logically for a minute. Just critically think about that. What could the possible outcome of that be? Okay. All right. So, could this all be part of their plan? Is this what they want? Do they want to take it all down? Is the World War II crazies who are all in agreement now, they want to just get a no-fly zone going no matter what over Ukraine. The West is corrupt. And even, all the other shit that they think about, I don't think that they've even thought this out. We're going to be throwing stingers and man pads over into Europe like crazy. And Ukraine is the 3rd most corrupt country in the world. So it doesn't just involve money. There's human trafficking that goes on there. There's drugs that goes on there. There's weapon sales that go on there. So what are the odds that a stinger ends up in an airliner's asshole? Nobody's thinking about this shit. And it disturbs me. So, we got some problems coming. I thought it was a good idea to get that much information out. That's what I got. At the moment, it's happening, it's evolving, things are moving fast, and it seems to be accelerating. I hope that it begins to slow down. I doubt it. But maybe peace will break out in Ukraine. Maybe Zelensky will realize that what he's got isn't as bad as what he thinks he's got. Maybe he'll start working for his nation instead of against it. Maybe our leaders will take our interest into mind and act on our behalf instead of their own. All of this could happen. however unlikely. I'm going to end it there. I'm AC Actual. This is Conservitude. Do me a favor, subscribe. Hit the like bell if there happens to be one. I don't know where you're watching this, whether it be on Rumble or YouTube, if it's still up on YouTube. Again, you can go on to the Telegram channel. Let me show you the Telegram channel so that way you know what I'm talking about. The screen's going to freak out for a second. Don't mind the screen wigging out. If you get seasick, I apologize. Give me a second here. I'll whip that up so that you can see it. I just wanted to show you all of the information that I have right there. You can get to. So give me a second. Where's my page at? It is right here. Okay. So that's my page. So that's me. You go to my page and you can pull this up. So that is t.me/conserva_TUDE. If you go to that, that's me. And then you can see I have everything that I've talked about and much more listed right here. So I hope you'll consider that if you wanted to join that. Otherwise, you know what, again, just do me the favor, ring the little bell, subscribe would be helpful, because then other people get to see the video and I'll know that maybe a couple people are actually watching this. And I'm kidding about that. I know who's watching it. And outside of that, again, I'm AC Actual. This is Conservitude. And I'm out of here. Hope you guys have a great, fantastic day.